What you doing, Diglet Dreamers? You got Mathers back for another VDL replay. This is week 3 versus the Atlanta Shocks, coached by JoJo, aka Get Me to 1650. I don't really know what that is. That in reference to the ladder or something? I don't know. The ladder score? I don't know. Subscriber count? I don't know. But as you can see, I got my team here. Frostlass, Luxray finally making an appearance in the VDL. Got Salazzle hidden here behind Rillaboom, Scizor, and Hydreigon. So after last week's spell, I decided to bring a few more of my top tier threats, basically Scizor and Hydreigon. My opponent brought Dragapult, Volcanion, Mega Aggron, Alakazam, Landorus, Therian, and I almost said Sylveon. So put it on slope and let's get into it. I brought Frostlass with Spike's lead. That was kind of the idea. It has a nice speed tier and obviously ice type move versus things like Landorus. But I just wanted to try to get up as much spikes as possible, and then hope that the rest of my team, my very offensive team, be able to pull through. And I very, very much thought about clicking Destiny Bond right here, but I was like, I don't know, he might go for like Stealth Rock or something, so I wanted to make sure I stopped that, but ended up, of course, being the wrong play. As high horsepower is not really doing that much here, but I did put in a little bit more bulk on this Rillaboom set, so I'm able to tank a body press, hit him with another high horsepower, and what I really wanted was just damage on this thing, because what I'm looking for right now is a Luxray sweep, because I actually have Ice Fang for the Landorus and the Dragapult, and then I have Facade, and I think I have Wild Charge for the Volcanion. Yeah, but basically, if I can lower this thing to a point where it might die to like a Wild Charge or a Facade, then I should be able to KO and outspeed everything at +2 at speed. So anyway, I've lost track. So he switched in Landorus on my Rillaboom's high horsepower as I doubled into my Scizor, and he goes into Volcanion. I U-turn out into my Hydreigon as he defogs. The grassy terrain ends. I get some big damage on this thing. I also wanted damage on this thing so that I could take less recoil from Wild Charge with Luxray. So that was the idea here. It would have been pretty close to knocking him out there with another Draco Meteor, but I miss as he gets a nice 35% off on me with Steam Eruption, and does pull the switch into his Sylveon, making my obviously immune to my Draco Meteor. But I do have a switch in. I have Salazzle. He goes for the Wish, unfortunately, and is able to switch into this thing to get his HP back. I decided to just go for a Toxic, because I could Toxic the Aggron even if you wanted to go that. I just want damage on this thing, so I keep going for it. I sack my Salazzle to the Steam Eruption, but I get 51% damage on this thing, which I'm happy about. Salazzle probably would have been good to keep around for the Sylveon, but that's about it, so I was kind of okay with it. I bring in Rillaboom, and watch this. He switches into Landorus, and even with the Intimidate, Wood Hammer from Rillaboom is knocking this thing out. Pretty sure I was banded on that set, which was pretty awesome. Although the unfortunate thing there, I mean, it really showcases the power of Rillaboom, but kind of what I really wanted there was to do a lot of damage and then knock myself out with recoil, but leave the Landorus there, basically just leave the Landorus with a little HP left. That way I could go into Luxray and get an agility up, while it probably wouldn't be able to do much damage to me with an Earthquake with the grassy terrain up. But I guess when I think about it, the Aggron still being at 52% would have been pretty bad for it, so I guess it worked out. Got rid of the Landorus, which was his Scarfer, as I did see it outspeed my Frostlass earlier. So I go Hydreigon as he goes Mega Aggron, and I am packing the Flamethrower, so I'm able to knock out the Aggron there, which is really nice for my Luxray. Things are looking pretty good for my Luxray right now. Sylveon comes out, and I go Scizor. As he does go for another Wish. I mean, I'm worried about the HP fire, but I do have an Akka Berry waiting on this thing. I decide to double into Luxray as he goes into Volcanion. Gets a lot of HP back. So this was kind of the key turn. What I could do here is knock this thing out with a Wild Charge, which would give me a lot of recoil damage. And then he could obviously just go Dragapult or Alakazam and knock me out, or, you know, set up, which was pretty bad. So I thought about going for Agility here, because if he maybe by some chance decides that he's too afraid of this thing with his Volcanion, he wants to keep his Volcanion alive. So he wants to switch out, and I get a chance to Agility, in which case I would then outspeed the Alakazam and the Dragapult, unless like they were Scarf, which is probably unlikely since he had Scarf Landorus, but not the most impossible thing in the world. I should have enough with Guts boosted Facade to knock out the Sylveon, I would think, unless it's like max physically defensive. And then obviously you would knock out the Volcanion with Wild Charge. So basically my thought process here was like, if I can get an Agility up, I could win the game. So of course I'd go for it. But he does stay in, as you can see, and does way too much damage with Steam Eruption. So I get a little bit back with the grassy terrain, but the burn is keeping me low too. I decided to try the Facade to see if maybe it KOs, but it doesn't. I wanted to, because like if I went for Wild Charge there, obviously I would go down to recoil. So I tried the Facade. I probably would have gone down to burn damage anyway, so it probably wasn't the best play. But anyway, go into Hydreigon, knock him out with the Dark Pulse. I'm not in the worst position either, because I still have Scizor and I have Hydreigon. My Hydreigon is Scarf, which means it could potentially KO these two. And then Scizor, obviously, with priority Technician boosted Bullet Punch, is looking pretty threatening versus his team. I disconnected there. But Bullet Punch does over half to the Sylveon, which is good to know. He does get a Wish Off and goes into the Alakazam, as I just go for a Bullet Punch again, which does 82%. And he doesn't get back to full, so if he happened to be Sash there on Alakazam, then I'm in a good spot. I Bullet Punch, it doesn't quite KO as he reveals the Hidden Power Fire, but thankfully I have the Akka Berry, which keeps me alive, and I knock him out. So the interesting play here, his Sylveon is at a range where it's not going to take a Bullet Punch, but he has the Dragapult at full health. So the interesting play here, I mean, I don't think a Bullet Punch is going to knock this out. I have Hydreigon, but my Scizor is at such a low range that I feel like even a Dragon move could knock this out. Hydreigon obviously does resist the Ghost move, so maybe I could have made a play by going into Hydreigon here. Who knows? Yeah, I go for the Bullet Punch. It does over half, just barely, but he does have the Flamethrower. It knocks me out. So I think maybe I could have gone Hydreigon there, tanked the Flamethrower, and then it would have been a question of, do I go for Dark Pulse or do I go for U-turn, because Hydreigon would have still been at full health. I think the play definitely was to go Hydreigon, because obviously, assuming that I live, I could just go for the U-turn on the Sylveon. I mean, it does depend if he goes Sylveon or not, but so best case scenario, I went Hydreigon on the Flamethrower, lived the hit. He's fearing the Scarf, decides to switch out, and I U-turn on the Sylveon, get back Scizor in, get Scizor back in. I Bullet Punch, which will either KO the Sylveon or 2-hit KO the Dragapult if he decides to do that switch. And in either scenario, if he goes Hydreigon, I Bullet Punch 2-hit KO, and then just KO the Sylveon. Or if the Sylveon gets KO'd if he decides to let Sylveon go down rather than Dragapult, then Sylveon goes down. I can just Bullet Punch the Dragapult for half its damage, and then come in with Scarf Hydreigon and knock it out. So lots of theory crafting that I'm going on here, but it was a closer game than it looked like. Came down to me making the wrong plays at the end there, and the potential to flinch is still here. I mean, it would have been nice if I was like maybe like a Z move or with like flash cannon or Z poison move or something, could have knocked this thing out. But then I obviously would not have outsped the Dragapult and it would have knocked me out. So that is the game. Unfortunate stuff. Really hoping I can restore some honor to Luxray in future games. But yeah, that's it for this one, guys. Hopefully see you next week with a better performance. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out. Keep dreaming. Goodbye.